In the year 216 BC, the Roman Republic stood at the edge of a crisis unlike any it had faced before. The Second Punic War, which had begun years earlier as a contest for dominance in the Western Mediterranean, had transformed into a struggle for survival. For Rome, this was no longer a distant war fought on foreign shores. The enemy was deep within Italy itself. That enemy was Hannibal Barca, commander of Carthage. Against expectation, he had crossed the Alps with his army and carried the war directly into Roman territory. In the years that followed, Hannibal inflicted a series of humiliating defeats on Roman forces. These losses did more than reduce Rome's manpower. They struck at the very foundation of Roman confidence, the belief that discipline, organization, and sheer determination would always prevail. Before we go any further, I'd invite you to listen to this story not just as a battle, but as a moment when an entire civilization was forced to confront its own limits. Hannibal's success did not come from overwhelming numbers. Time and again, he faced Roman armies larger than his own. What set him apart was his ability to understand his opponent. He studied Roman habits closely, how their commanders thought, how their legions advanced, and how deeply they trusted the power of their heavy infantry formations. Hannibal recognized that Rome's greatest strength could also become its most dangerous weakness. As Hannibal moved freely through southern Italy, Roman fear grew steadily. News of defeat after defeat reached the capital. Families mourned lost sons. Allies began to question Rome's ability to protect them. The Republic had endured hardship before, but never had it faced an enemy so consistently effective on its own soil. In response, Roman public opinion hardened. Patience wore thin. Defensive strategies and cautious maneuvering were no longer acceptable. The people wanted a decisive end to the war. They wanted Hannibal crushed in a single, overwhelming battle. And as often happens in moments of fear, Rome placed its hopes not in subtlety or restraint, but in sheer force. 2 new consuls were elected to lead this effort, Gaius Terentius Varro and Lucius Aemilius Paulus. They were very different men. Paulus was experienced and cautious, shaped by traditional Roman values of discipline and restraint. Varro, by contrast, was more aggressive and eager for decisive action. Despite their differences, both were united by one shared objective: to force Hannibal into open battle and destroy him. The Roman Senate granted the consuls command of an army unprecedented in size. Never before had the Republic assembled such a force. The message was clear. Rome intended to end the war by weight of numbers alone. This massive army was not designed for prolonged maneuver or cautious engagement. It was built for one purpose: to smash the Carthaginian army beyond recovery. The Roman host marched south into Apulia, a region of wide plains and open ground. From a Roman perspective, the terrain could not have been more favorable. Flat land allowed for tight legionary formations, clear lines of advance, and full use of infantry mass. Estimates place the Roman force at approximately 85,000 men, including Roman citizens and allied troops from across Italy. Facing them was Hannibal's army, numbering roughly 50,000 soldiers. His force was a diverse one, composed of Africans, Iberians, Gauls, and the famed Numidian cavalry. To many observers, the imbalance seemed decisive. On paper, Rome possessed every advantage. Confidence ran high among Roman ranks. Hannibal, however, did not see what others saw. He understood that battles are not decided by numbers alone. In the days leading up to the confrontation, he ordered limited skirmishes, not to gain ground, but to gather information. He watched how Roman units moved and reacted. He observed how command decisions were made. Most importantly, he confirmed what he had long suspected. The Roman army would commit everything to a direct push through the center. At this point, it's worth pausing for a moment. With everything you know so far, consider this question quietly to yourself. Was Rome's greatest strength about to become its greatest weakness? When the two armies finally faced each other near the banks of the Orpheus River, the moment of decision had arrived. Neither side expected retreat. Rome arrived confident in its size and discipline. Hannibal arrived with a carefully constructed plan. Rather than forming a strong, uniform line, Hannibal arranged his troops in an unusual formation. His center was deliberately thinner, composed of infantry capable of absorbing pressure while maintaining cohesion. His strongest units were placed on the flanks, supported by superior cavalry. This arrangement was not a sign of weakness, it was the foundation of a trap. At the signal to advance, the Battle of Cannae began. Both Roman consuls ordered their cavalry to attack on the wings. Their goal was to eliminate Carthaginian mounted forces early and secure the flanks. Hannibal immediately committed his own cavalry, including the highly skilled Numidians. The contrast between the two cavalry forces was stark. Hannibal's riders were faster, more flexible, and far more experienced in mobile warfare. Roman cavalry, heavier and less coordinated, struggled to respond. Within a short time, Roman cavalry formations broke apart and were driven from the field. Hannibal's cavalry pursued them relentlessly, removing them entirely from the battle. For the Roman infantry, this development appeared favorable. With cavalry gone, the battlefield was now dominated by infantry alone. From the Roman perspective, this removed the greatest threat to their flanks. Believing the moment had come, the legions surged forward. The Roman center advanced with immense force, pressing directly into Hannibal's line. Step by step, the Carthaginian center gave ground. To Roman soldiers, this looked like victory unfolding before their eyes. They pushed harder, deeper, determined to break the enemy completely. But the retreat was controlled. Hannibal's center did not collapse, it withdrew by design. As the Romans advanced, their dense formation became increasingly compressed. Units crowded together, maneuverability vanished. What had once been a powerful mass became rigid and vulnerable. At precisely this moment, Hannibal's flanks moved. His infantry on both sides began to press inward. The motion was deliberate and disciplined, not chaotic. The Roman army, focused entirely on its forward push, failed to recognize the danger until it was too late. Then came the final blow. Hannibal's cavalry, having scattered the Roman horse, returned to the battlefield. With no opposition remaining, they struck from the rear. In a matter of moments, the Roman army found itself completely encircled. The largest force the Republic had ever assembled was now trapped. Ahead stood Carthaginian infantry. On both sides, Hannibal's flanks closed in. Behind them, cavalry sealed the escape. Inside the encirclement, order dissolved. Roman soldiers were packed tightly together, unable to use their weapons effectively. The disciplined structure of the legions collapsed under the pressure. Panic spread. Commands could no longer be heard. Both Roman consuls were killed amid the chaos. The slaughter that followed lasted for hours. According to the historian Polybius, approximately 70,000 Roman and Allied infantry were killed. Another 10,000 were captured. Only a few thousand managed to escape. Of the 6,000 Roman cavalry, just 370 survived. Carthaginian losses were far smaller. Livy estimates about 8,000 dead, while Polybius records roughly 5,700. The aftermath of Cannae sent shockwaves throughout the Roman world. Never before had Rome suffered such devastation in a single battle. Entire communities were left without sons or fathers. In the capital, mourning replaced confidence, yet Rome did not collapse. Instead, the Republic adapted. After Cannae, Roman strategy changed fundamentally. No longer would Rome seek immediate, decisive confrontation with Hannibal. Instead, it embraced patience, caution, and attrition. These hard lessons, born of catastrophe, ultimately allowed Rome to endure and prevail in the long war that followed. For Hannibal, Cannae marked the pinnacle of his military career. His double envelopment became one of the most studied maneuvers in military history, examined by commanders for centuries afterward. Yet even this perfect victory revealed a deeper truth of history. A single battlefield triumph, no matter how brilliant, does not always decide the fate of nations. Cannae remains a reminder that strength alone is never enough. Understanding, discipline, and foresight often matter more than numbers. It is a lesson drawn not only from war, but from life itself. If you've stayed with this story to the end, you may find that Cannae leaves you with more questions than answers. If you feel inclined, you're welcome to share your thoughts below. Not as a debate, but as a reflection. History often becomes more meaningful when it's remembered together.